Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to use Arcade as well as Output's effects combined with Ableton Live's comping feature to create unique percussion grooves, pads, ear candies. Let's dive right in. So first let's create a MIDI track, Command-Shift-T, and in this MIDI track let's load up an instance of Arcade. I find that to be a good starting point for inspiration. We're specifically going to go through the lines or these libraries. I'm going to start with a pad, so let's go for Aura. Angelic Forest sounds somewhat interesting, so let's click Play Sampler. Perfect. So down here you get all these different samples, and these black keys on the keyboard correspond to the modulation. So this one, for example, plays this sample. The DNA kind of chops up and finds different parts of the sample. This one does it quicker. This one reverses it. And this one over here, yeah, it loops it at different regions. So it can be interesting if you play multiple samples at the same time and also play the black keys to modulate. Nice. We're going to keep it really simple though. Double click to create a MIDI clip. When you play your MIDI keyboard, now you see, okay, this is C. Click one note here, create one note, legato to play that to the very end. And now you can drag your MIDI clip to the very end of your loop. Make sure that your loop is also looped, so it loops. There we go. Now I'm just going to load up an EQ to cut out all the low end that I don't need. All right, let's open up this panel, click configure, click the life button here and cavern, close this window again so you see we've mapped macro 2 and macro 4 to our configure panel. And now what I'm going to do is just click and create a few automation points, 1, 2, 3, 4. Click this little plus icon to put it into a new lane, click macro 4 to again create a couple points down here. Chuck it into a new lane, move into a finer grid, so right click 16th and then just start slightly automating so we get a bit more movement in the sound. There we go. So with life and cavern now being automated, it sounds like this. So you get a bit of movement. Great for pads. You know what, let's like this preset here so it's saved. Nice. I feel like this is a nice starting point. If you're enjoying these sounds and you're looking for a new source of inspiration, feel free to click that first link in the description below. There you will get your first month of Arcade for free. And after that, you'll get your first paid month for 50% off. Let's get back to the video. Output additionally has these three effects called Thermal, which is great for distortion. Portal is great for spacey sounds. Movement is great for rhythmic movement. I want to go for Portal because we're working with a pad. Perhaps we can make it a bit more spacey. Let's put it before the EQ. When it opens up, it already looks quite cool. I like the graphical interface. So you have the option to go into your presets by clicking this panel up here, and you can see categories that you can choose from. You have the start here option, which allows you to just scroll through a variety of different presets. And you have category specific presets over here, like the pitch, drums, guitar and keys, rhythmic, sound design. You get a lot of stuff. You can also save your own presets and access them in here in the user folder. So that's a great way to start. For pads, I do like the blurred fifths and glacier sounds. So let's select the glacier first. Now blurred fifths. It's nice. Or ambient lake. Ooh. It's actually kind of nice. I'm gonna go for glaciers though. And then once you've selected a preset, you can then move into the tweaking panel over here. And you can see what's going on behind the preset. So as you can see, there's a lot of modulation. Modulation 2, which is this red knob over here, is assigned to the shape, to the count. You could also change the rate. Modulation 1 is assigned to the offset. These are all grain controls over here, right? So it's a granular based effect plugin, which is great for pads, by the way. You additionally also get the option to assign 2 macros, which control the centerpiece of this weird orb here. See, when I move the orb, the effects also move. So this is great if you have a little MIDI controller and you want to just automate those two macros. You can, similar as to what we did with Arcade before, open up the configure panel like this, configure, click macro 1, click macro 2. So number 1 is flutter, number 2 is pad. Close down the configure panel, perhaps also close down portal. And now we can automate these. So what we're going to do is click this guy, hit A to open up automation, open up this into a new lane, macro 2, open it up into a new lane. There we go. So what we're going to do is just, again, create a couple automation points. There we go. Just draw in a few points. There we go. So we start getting some inconsistent flatters in the pad. Very nice. And the cool thing is that you can now switch through your presets. Re-enable the automation here. Continue. Re-enable the automation. And the awesome thing about this is that if you create a new audio track, hit resampling, record arm this track, just now let it run through for as long as you'd like. While you're letting it run through, you can also manually tweak your parameters here, like the pan, the pitch. You can also change the scale of the grains. Right now it's selecting ones in the minor scale. Really trippy stuff here. You see it's recording the audio into this new track here. You can also switch through the presets. Nice. Oh, this one's nice as well. Now we can head out of automation mode by clicking A. And by the way, you can also click this button, which is automation mode. Now you can right click, show take lanes on the resampling lane. So I'm going to call this one resampling. And you can see two individual recordings. That's because we let the loop, which is 16 bars, run through 2 times. So we recorded 32 bars, but on top of each other, right? As 2 separate takes. And this is a feature that has been introduced in Live 11, comping, which allows you to just select different parts of your sound like this, hit enter, and it moves it up. Let's give this a different color, a red color. This one is take 1, right? So now if we hit enter on take 1, it moves this up here, this up here. Let's say I like this sound. I'm gonna solo it. Just that individual sound. You can click it, hit enter. Click this one, hit enter. This one, enter, right? And you can just select the favorite snippets of your sound. Now you can just delete individual parts that you don't like, perhaps. Perhaps you want to keep a really minimalistic sound. And now these are our favorite takes. Now we can highlight these, hit Command Option F to create some fades so it doesn't always click. That's pretty great if you want to create some detail to your tracks. So imagine you have like a bit of a drum groove going and you want to add some ear candy details to the background without having just one static pad run through the entire time. For example, you could take just this little snippet over here, double click, continue to warp it further down here in the Ableton Live warping panel. Even if it's just a little snippet of a sound, you can take it, hit Option, drag it to the very front to duplicate it. Maybe put it here once again. Let's go into 16th grid, hit Option Shift, and now we can scroll through the sound within the little clip here. That way we get a bit more variety in the sound. So we can then Command J to consolidate this clip, Command D to duplicate it. So let's loop this snippet up here, Command L. A lot of shortcuts. So we get some kind of a little phrasing going on, right? Again, we can continue to process this even further, perhaps by using different effects modules. We can chuck another portal on top, or we could also go for a different effect, perhaps movement, chuck this onto the layer directly, and you see that this gives you a slightly different graphical interface, but also with this little macro control in the middle. And the presets are above here. So if we now play this, nice. Let's continue to go through the sounds here. Let's disable the take lanes because I do feel like we have something we like here. Create a new resampling track. Open this up. Input resampling. Record arm the track that we want to resample into. Let's call this one resampling 2. So again, what we're going to do is solo this layer up here. Record.
You see now it's recording into multiple takes. Open up movement, scroll through presets. Let's go for something dotted maybe. That's nice. Gonna pause it here, and you can see all of these individual takes that it's created from us just resampling audio, creating different variations of the sound. And again, we can assign different colors to these individual clips like this. And if you hit this loudspeaker icon, you can listen to just this take, for instance. Or this one. Let's say I like the rhythmic section down here. So highlight, click enter, and that moves to the very top. You can see that here. And let's say I like this section, click enter, that moves to the very top. And now we want to disable this loudspeaker because we want to hear what's up here. Right click, disable show take lanes, and this is what we get. Okay, I feel like something's missing down here, so let's drag this further. And perhaps we could take this section and chuck it back here. Yeah, create a bit of a groove. And we can also blend in the pad that we've created from the beginning. Okay, I think it's a slightly different key, but we could still change that in the arcade over here. So right now it's set to E major. We could just experiment with the different keys, maybe go into minor, C minor. Or instead of trying to mess around with the pad and the keys, we could also change the key of this resampling layer. So resampling 1, we're just going to blend it out, drag it to the very bottom, close it like this, since we're going to work with resampling 2. And instead of desperately trying to change the key of the pad here in arcade, I can also just change the key of this resampling layer. So we can then hit Shift and Tab, match it to the pad. Sounds better, right? Perhaps to the second layer, we can add an auto pan. And lastly, we have Thermal, which is the distortion-based plugin. To illustrate its functions, I'm going to do something similar to what we did previously with the other effects, but with a percussion loop. So let's select a percussion loop that has a bit of details, like this one, chuck it into our very first audio track that was empty up here. And now we're going to load up Thermal. So let's search up Thermal, the distortion-based plugin, load it onto our track. Looks very similar to Portal, but just has a bit of a different characteristic here. And again, we can either tweak directly in here, start from scratch, or we could also load up a preset that we like. Let's go for Magma Bubbles. I know this one sounds cool. So before, after. It's kind of like this flanger movement in the low end frequency, which is nice. And then we can start tweaking, right? We can go into this panel, see that it's divided into multiple stages. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So that means you can split your signal into multiple bands. We see that it's set here, band split. And these individual layers, band 1, band 2, band 3, or 3 stages, you can also process them differently. So let's say you just want to distort the high end. You can go into stage 2, maybe move this up, this band, and give it a bit more drive. Or a bit less. Yeah. Give it a bit more width. A couple more highs, less lows. Let's try yourself out. And again, you can continue to map all these different parameters to whatever you like. And for example, I've just mapped this little step sequence to the modulation rate. And by hovering over this blue button, which is the color of the modulator, you can then increase the LFO range, or the step modulation range. See how the phaser changes its rate adaptively. It's very modular, and that's what I like about this interface. And you have this effects panel over here, which applies effects globally to the entire signal. You can either choose like a stereo delay. So you get a couple of these, and down here you also get a second effects panel. So you get 2 effects, and then you get a master channel, which is basically like a compressor, which takes away all the peaks and narrows down the sound. See? So again, we can create a new audio track, open it up, hit resampling, record arm this track, and hit record. Now let this loop just run through. You see? And while it's running through, we can scroll through the presets. Whatever comes out, comes out. Interesting, interesting. Can also go back into the blob. Tweak it here. Next preset. Okay, this one sounds messed up. Holy moly. Close it back down. And now this audio track. Right click it. Show take lanes. There you go. And if you're in automation mode, you're not going to see the take lane. So make sure automation mode is disabled. What we're going to do is solo the resampled percussion layer down here and select our favorite snippets. Just click enter and that'll move it to the very top. So let's say you like this part, move it to the top. You like this part, move it to the top. You like this one, move it to the top. So you get a completely unique sound. And if you're into genres like tech house, minimal house, these glitchy types of strange percussions are truly great. So from this comping strategy, we have now created a new audio clip. So let's right click, disable the take lanes, and let's see what we've got. Highlight this all, hit Option Command F, and it'll create us fades. Now we can highlight all of this, hit Command J to consolidate. Now we have that as one audio clip. Double click to move into clip view, which allows you to warp this sound. Go into beats, transients, forward transients, dial it down. Get something way more percussive. You can also select 16ths. Now you can't automate this, but Ableton Live 12 allows you to automate it in the envelopes panel, so that's pretty cool. You can still record that into a new track. So Shift Tab to move out of that panel. Let's disable the original percussion loop, and now if we play everything together, it sounds like this. See, new loop, new percussion. So just try yourself out, have some fun, put in a different percussion groove, go through all your presets and just rely on this randomness to generate you sounds. From that randomness, you can then select your favorite parts to create something very unique and interesting. This works very well for melodic ear candy sounds as well as percussion grooves. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. Also, thanks again Output for sponsoring this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.